But it was devastating to me. I was a young actor. It was probably the worst thing that can happen to you in your career.
For more than a month in 1984, the actor playing Marty McFly in Back to the Future was not Michael J. Fox. It was a young man named Eric Stoltz. He filmed 5 weeks of one of the most beloved movies ever made. He drove the DeLorean. He stood beside Christopher Lloyd's Doc Brown in the Twin Pines Mall parking lot. He even threw the punch at Biff. And then, with the cameras still rolling, he was fired. Almost every frame he shot was thrown away and filmed again with someone else. For 40 years, he refused to say a single word about it. This is what really happened to Eric Stoltz. Eric Cameron Stoltz was born in Whittier, California in September 1961 and spent part of his childhood in American Samoa where his parents worked as teachers, a long way from any film set. He found acting young and took it seriously. He studied at the University of Southern California, dropped out in his junior year, and threw himself into theater, performing 10 plays at the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland. In 1981, he moved to New York and trained under 2 of the most respected teachers in the business, Stella Adler and Peggy Feury. This was not a kid chasing easy stardom. This was a craftsman who wanted to act on stage if he had to for the rest of his life. His first film role came in 1982, a small part in the teen classic Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He picked up television work and kept building. Then, in 1985, came the role that changed everything, and it is the reason he ever got near Marty McFly in the first place. In 1985, Stoltz played Rocky Dennis in Mask, the true story of a bright, funny, fiercely alive teenager living with a severe facial disfigurement caused by a rare bone condition. Buried under hours of heavy prosthetic makeup that took most of the day to apply, with only his voice and his eyes left to act with, Stoltz delivered one of the most moving performances of the decade. He played Rocky not as a victim to be pitied, but as a sharp, warm, ordinary kid, and audiences fell in love with him. The film, directed by Peter Bogdanovich and co-starring Cher as Rocky's biker mother, became a critical favorite. It earned Stoltz a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor and the respect of the entire industry. One of the people who watched it was Sid Sheinberg, the head of Universal Pictures. He was so impressed that, when a certain time travel comedy needed its lead recast, Sheinberg pushed hard for the young actor from Mask. The whole situation began with a problem. Director Robert Zemeckis and his co-writer Bob Gale had wanted Michael J. Fox for Marty from the very start. But Fox was the star of a hit television sitcom, Family Ties, and the show's schedule would not release him. With their first choice locked away, the production needed a Marty fast, and Sheinberg's pick was Stoltz. The cameras rolled. On paper, everything was fine. Behind the scenes, a quiet problem was already growing. Back to the Future was meant to be light, funny, and fast on its feet, a comedy with a beating heart wrapped inside a science fiction adventure. Stoltz was a serious, classically trained dramatic actor, and he played Marty as something closer to a tragedy. By accounts from the set, he stayed deep in character even when the cameras stopped, asking to be called Marty at all times. In the cafeteria scene where Marty confronts the bully Biff, Stoltz reportedly committed so hard that he left real bruises on actor Thomas F. Wilson. The early footage came back to Zemeckis and it was not landing. The jokes were not breathing. The light, everyman energy the whole film depended on was missing. After roughly 5 weeks of shooting, the filmmakers made one of the hardest and most expensive decisions in the movie's history. By now Fox had been freed up, after the creator of Family Ties agreed to let him take on the film alongside the show, shooting the movie at night and the sitcom by day. Stoltz was let go, Fox was brought in, and most of what had already been filmed was scrapped and shot again from scratch at enormous cost. Cast members like Christopher Lloyd were stunned by the change. For a while, with a month of footage in the bin and the budget bleeding, nobody on the production was even sure the film would make it to release. Eerily, a few traces of Stoltz reportedly survived in the finished movie, in a handful of wide shots of Marty driving the DeLorean, and quite possibly in the fist that connects with Biff in the diner. Recasting sent ripples through the rest of the production too. Because Stoltz was taller than Fox, some of the casting built around him no longer fit once the lead changed, and the actress originally set to play Marty's girlfriend Jennifer was let go and replaced as well. Costumes, camera setups, and whole scenes had to be rethought. Swapping out a lead 5 weeks into shooting is the kind of decision that can sink a film and end careers, and for a tense stretch it looked like it might do exactly that. That it instead produced one of the most beloved movies ever made is a small miracle, and Eric Stoltz is the quiet, almost forgotten figure standing right at the center of it. There's a reason this story has never stopped fascinating people. Somewhere in a Universal vault sits 5 weeks of footage of a completely different Back to the Future, a darker, heavier version of one of the most joyful films ever made, starring a man almost nobody pictures in the role. A few seconds have leaked out over the years as DVD extras, but the full performance has never been released and probably never will be. For film fans, it is the ultimate what-if, a parallel universe sitting just out of reach, fitting for a movie about how one small change can rewrite an entire future. And for 40 years, the one person who could explain what those weeks were really like chose to say nothing at all. It is tempting to tell this as the great Hollywood tragedy, the man who lost the role of a lifetime. But the honest version is far more interesting. The recasting almost certainly saved the movie. Fox brought a lightness and a comic timing the part needed, the sense of an ordinary teenager in way over his head, and Back to the Future went on to become the highest-grossing film of 1985 and one of the most loved franchises in cinema history. The decision that looked brutal on set turned out to be the right one for the film. And here is the twist most people get completely wrong. Losing Marty McFly did not end Eric Stoltz. Not even close, it barely slowed him down. Look at what he did next. In 1987, he led the John Hughes teen romance Some Kind of Wonderful, playing the working-class artist Keith, a film that still has a devoted following decades later. He moved between genres with ease, turning up in the horror sequel The Fly I in Cameron Crowe's Say Anything, and in the war film Memphis Belle in 1990. He won acclaim at the Sundance Film Festival for the 1992 drama The Waterdens, about men in a spinal rehabilitation ward. Then, in 1994, came one of his most famous scenes. In Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, he played Lance, the long-haired drug dealer in the bathrobe at the center of one of the most talked-about sequences in 90s cinema, a performance that earned him an Independent Spirit Award nomination. There was more, Killing Zoe and Little Women, both in 1994, Rob Roy and Kicking and Screaming in 1995, the blockbuster creature feature Anaconda in 1997, and years later the hit thriller The Butterfly Effect in 2004. He even moved into producing, backing smaller films like Bodies, Rest and Motion, Sleep With Me and Mr. Jealousy, shaping projects rather than just appearing in them. And alongside all of it, he never left the stage. He made his Broadway debut as George Gibbs in a 1989 revival of Thornton Wilder's Our Town, and earned a Tony Award nomination for it, then kept returning to the theater in plays like Three Sisters, Two Shakespearean Actors in Arms and The Man. Across the decades, he shared the screen and the stage with names like Bruce Willis, Winona Ryder and John Travolta. This was not a man hiding from Hollywood after humiliation. He was working constantly in serious roles, building exactly the kind of respected, durable career most actors never get within reach of. Then he did the smartest thing of all, the move that explains why he never seemed bitter about Marty McFly. Instead of chasing leading man status forever, he stepped behind the camera. Eric Stoltz quietly became one of television's most dependable directors. He has directed episodes of some of the biggest shows of the last 20 years, including Law & Order, Boston Legal, Grey's Anatomy, Glee, How to Get Away with Murder and Madam Secretary, along with his own feature films. He kept acting too in series like the science fiction drama Caprica, where he played a lead, as well as Mad About You and Chicago Hope. The young man who was erased from Back to the Future did not fade into obscurity. He simply changed jobs on his own terms. For 4 decades, Stoltz said almost nothing in public about Back to the Future. No tell-all interviews, no behind-the-scenes confessions, no bitterness for sale. He let the mythology grow without him while everyone else told the story. Then in 2025 it finally moved. Michael J. Fox released a memoir called Future Boy, all about the wild stretch when he shot Back to the Future at night and family ties by day, surviving on almost no sleep. Writing the book, Fox reached out to Stoltz and asked after all this time if the two of them could simply meet. Stoltz politely declined to take part in the book itself, but he agreed to meet the man who had replaced him. The two of them sat down together at Fox's office in New York and, by Fox's account, finally talked it through, the two Martys face to face 40 years late. Fox described it as a good conversation and noted how much mythology had built up over the years around something that, in the end, was just a casting decision. After a lifetime of silence, the door quietly opened. What is most impressive is not the career, it is the silence. For 40 years, Eric Stoltz had the easiest payday in Hollywood sitting right in front of him. He could have given the tell-all interview, written the bitter memoir, leaned into being the man who was robbed of Marty McFly. Outrage and grievance sell, and the audience was always there, hungry for his side of the story. He never took the money. He let the legend belong to the film and to Michael J. Fox, and he went and built a life out of actual work instead. In an industry that runs on noise, choosing 40 years of quiet dignity is its own kind of rare achievement. Eric Stoltz is living proof that losing the most famous role of a generation is not the end of a story. It can be the start of a better, stranger, quieter one. He could have spent 4 decades as the man who almost was Marty McFly, trading on a single missed chance and a grievance. Instead, he built a real career as an acclaimed actor, a Tony-nominated stage performer, and a sought-after director. He kept his dignity, said nothing he did not mean, and walked back into the story only when he was ready on his own terms. The Marty we never saw turned out to be doing just fine, maybe better than fine. If you had no idea Marty McFly was almost a completely different actor, you are not alone, so share this with the friend who swears they know everything about Back to the Future. Subscribe for a forgotten Hollywood story every Tuesday and Saturday, and drop the name of the famous recasting you want us to cover next in the comments.